I made the mistake this morning of opening up social media and political reels started going by, and I was on a death scroll. And then I realized that the algorithm now thinks that I like political stuff, so it keeps sending it to me. So I got to stop doing that. It just anything that gets your fur all raised up that early in the morning is not worth doing to yourself. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I woke up. It's poor man's brisket day, by the way. Poor man's brisket is basically chuck roast prepared like a brisket flat. So if you were just going to do the brisket, not the point, just the flat, this is how you do it. A poor man's brisket is basically chuck steaks, chuck roasts that you prepare just like that flat. So I'm going to get these ready. These were frozen last night and took them out of the freezer and let them come up to room temperature. I find that doing this before you start to season the meat helps a lot with cleanup. Where's the part that tears it on here? No, it's here, stuck to the bottom. It's coming off the box though. Well, that doesn't help. Let's see if it'll still rip. I guess bad design, great value. The other advantage of doing this with the wrap is that when you're done seasoning the meat, you wrap it with this. It keeps everything in the same place. Throw this away. So the ingredients that I use for this are granulated onion, coarse black pepper, and granulated garlic, plus cumin and table salt. Regular old table salt. Basically, you just cover the meat with it. The only thing that you have to use a little sparingly is ground cumin, because too much of this, it's a little overwhelming for most people, and you don't need much of it. The taste of it goes a really long way, but it does add to the bark part of that roast when it's done. So I'm going to put it on first because it's more of a powder, and it sticks better to the meat if you put it on first. You can see I'm not going overboard with it. Just enough to hit the meat. I suppose I could use the salt shaker for this too, but this is just as easy. The order of the rest of this stuff doesn't really matter. I'm going to pat it on anyway. Again, I'm just covering the meat. Missed a spot right there. Coarse black pepper on it, the last step. All this flavor in that bark on the outside really adds a lot to it. I use coarse black pepper. It adds the texture of the meat. I'm just going to pat it on, and then we're going to do the other side. Cumin, One thing that you'll see is missing from my recipe for this seasoning is a lot of smokers. Smokers, amateur, professional, whatever, they'll use brown sugar or regular sugar in some way. And for me, I don't use it for two reasons. One is because I'm not supposed to have the sugar anyway. Two is I think it makes it too sweet. You want it more savory. You don't want as much sweet. So that's just me, but it actually ends up with kind of a sweet addition to it anyway when you cook this meat the right way, because all those flavors come out. Also, you got to make sure that you get the edges of the meat too, so everything that fell on the plastic can stick to the edges, like so. Now with those seasoned, grab a paper towel, a fresh one. I'm going to move my spices aside. And we're going to wrap this. Let it become great. Let's see, it's just after 5 o'clock now. I'm going to let that rest until about an hour from now. And then we're going to get the smoker started and get that meat on there. I'm going to make some coffee. So why poor man's brisket, or why is it called that? Because brisket's expensive, and I'm going to get some coffee here. Need some ice. And yes, this is iced coffee again. And no, this isn't commercial creamer. This is half and half that I mix with my own flavor and use the container again. Had somebody ask me about this cup. This cup I got, it says Fight the Flames, and it's got Australia on it. This is from when the Australian wildfires were raging across the continent. And this was a fundraiser to help victims and firefighters who were all affected by this thing. I also remember that this event that was happening in Australia was the very first event that year that was like globally, made people globally aware of such terrible things that were happening. A lot of bad things happened that year. So this just brings me back and reminds me that we can all get through something. Our family remains close together, so that made it a little easier to get through. Anyway, this cup is built exactly like the other cups that I've shown in other videos that I've done, where it's an insulated cup and it keeps things cold all day. I can put ice in here and coffee or iced tea or something like that, and I can go outside and set it on the table, and it's 100 degrees outside when you're mowing. I'll leave it sit on the table and I'll come back over to it to get a drink once in a while, and it still has ice in it. It'll have ice all day. It'll melt a little bit just from the liquid in it, but it'll still keep the ice. These things are awesome. They're worth the money. Now I forget what I paid for this one. It was a little more because of the cause, but this works just as well as all my other cups like this. So anyway, I was saying, so you call it poor man's brisket because a whole brisket is just so expensive, even if you just buy a flat. Now there's a reason for that, because it's a really good cut of meat to slow smoke, slow cook. A chuck roast isn't really that much better of a piece of meat, but slow cooking, slow smoking is an art that takes that meat and breaks down that toughness of that meat and just makes it just fall apart, which makes it so good. I got these at Sam's Club, but if you buy them at Walmart or Publix, if they don't have a Publix where you are, Kroger or some other big store, just look for the cuts that don't have too big of a band of fat through it, because a lot of times that layer of fat will also come with it's a little sinewy, a little tough. You don't want that. You want a little bit more evenly distributed. These actually look pretty good. This isn't terrible. This one might have a little toughness right here, but most of that fat will melt into all that goodness that you're going to have in this meat at the end. But collectively, 2 chuck steaks is about half the price of the same amount of meat that you would get if you were buying a brisket flat. That's the story behind a poor man's brisket. Sure, there's more to it, but I'm not a smart man. Getting this on the smoker in just a little bit. See ya. Refill my pellet container. I know I've showed this before, but this is a dog food container, and you can put pellets in it and pour them right in your grill. It makes it a lot easier. Gotta keep my voice down because it's really early. The sun hasn't come up over the horizon yet. See if I can not spill the grease bucket, as I seem to do every time. Nope, I didn't spill it. Cut this bag open. What's the matter, Danny? You don't like the way it smells? It smells like wood, human. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to put it in this big bucket? Is there dog food in there? Is there dog food in there? Can I have some? No dog food. I'm sure all that would fit in there if I dumped it. This is a 40-pound bag of pellets, and it almost all fits. But I have to fill the grill anyway, so put the rest in there. Top this off a little bit. I'd estimate that hopper probably holds about 10 pounds of pellets. Maybe 8 pounds. Alright, let's get this thing powered on. I'm going to set that to 225, warm up the grill. Okay. Did you just want to come out here to see what I was doing? You don't have to go? Come on. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to check out my overnight growth in the garden. Watered them again yesterday. It actually didn't rain overnight last night or today. It's amazing how much this stuff grows when it has not oppressive heat and some water. I think I've got the fungus issue under control now with the turmeric mix that I put on it. I'll put a link to that video in the description. This isn't fungus related. I think that's insect related there, those leaves. Because all the leaves don't look like that, just a couple. I'll cut those off. You always know the sun's coming up when my fence lights start to turn off. They're solar powered batteries, and they charge all day and then they come on at night, and as the sun comes up they start to turn off one by one. Now and down that way is trying to decide whether or not it wants to be on. Such good growth. Such good growth. My basil plant is desperately trying to bolt again. I'm going to have to clip those off. The bees like it, but it makes the basil bitter. And my tomatoes. Looks like I have to clip some of those lower leaves off that are dying away. And then I'm going to put a little, I think I'll put a lattice up here. I'll string up the tomatoes so that they keep climbing. All these tomatoes were rescued from seeds that didn't make it last year. They all grew from a seed. Even if it's accidentally, these tomatoes I grew from seeds. And my pepper plants. There's some new flowers, so I'm looking forward to some more peppers. These are all the baby sweet bells. This pepper plant is going crazy tall. I think that's also a sweet bell, but we'll see. My angry reaper plants are down in here. These two little babies, that one and that one. The other ones are also baby sweet bells. Okay, That's our garden timers this morning. Okay, preheat's complete. We're gonna take these puppies out. Just need something to carry it on. The temperature is at 220. We're going to put these in here uncovered, so no foil or anything. 220 for 2 hours. Close to the center of the grill as we can. Oh, forgot my meat thermometer. Let me get that. You want to put this in the thickest part of the meat. When that internal temperature reaches, I always forget this, internal temperature should be about 140 degrees. And then I'm going to turn up the heat and wait for it to reach 175, which is the remaining 4 to 5 hours. Okay. I'll show you what that looks like on the grill. Yeah, buddy. It's poor man's brisket day. So I thought, as long as we're doing smoking today on the grill, let's do some chicken too. Because the last few hours of the poor man's brisket is essentially the same kind of temperature that I need the grill to be at, the smoker, for chicken. So I'm going to thaw this out and then season it. We'll put it on towards the end. Last couple hours anyway. It'll be nice and tender and delicious, and an option at mealtime. Should be enough water. This accelerates the thawing process so that we can get these seasoned enough to room temperature before we get them on the grill. Let's see how thawed out these are. Not very. No, I'm gonna change the water. The challenges of the cooking process and getting the fit, and I taught this to myself. I'm going to have. Okay, timer's up. 2 hours on the books. Now we're going to turn this up to 250. I'll give you a peek. Oh, yeah, buddy. Let's get some light on this. Okay, second part of the smoke today is the chicken. So I got out 8 chicken thighs earlier to thaw, and they're done thawing now. So I'm going to season them. Chicken thighs are excellent for smoking because the meat's not dry, and when you smoke them real slow like this, all that flavor just gets infused in those, and they're great. Now if you do the whole chicken quarter with just the leg and the thigh, don't worry about the difference in the size of the meat, because as a whole, that piece will still absorb all the flavor. But if you're going to do legs and quarters separate, I would give the thighs about 30 minutes longer than I would the legs. So you just put on the thighs first, and then you come back and then you put on the legs. Half hour after that. So we're going to get these seasoned up. First thing I'm going to do is like the trick I did earlier. Put down some plastic wrap so that I can easily let them marinate. Again, bad design. Bad design. I think one of the next things that you see on my Amazon store is going to be one of those plastic wrap dispensers. Don't have it there yet. Oh, and one good way to save money is instead of buying packs of chicken thighs and then chicken legs or drumsticks separately, buy a big bag of chicken quarters. They're much less expensive that way. And then you just separate the meat, the legs from the thighs. Or you can keep them whole to have that way. I'll have to post a video next time I process them when I bring them home. But it's actually, they're pretty easy to separate if you have a small boning knife. And even a paring knife, if it's sharp, it'll work. But it's really easy to separate them. Those bigger pieces still are a little frozen, that's okay. They will unfreeze as they assume room temperature. I'm gonna wash my hands before I touch anything else. Our little soap dispenser decided to prematurely end its usefulness. It no longer pumps. I'm gonna have to get another one of those. I use a lot of garlic and onion. Well, I won't say a lot. I just use them in a lot of different ways to spice things. So, I also, in this one, I'm using this ranch. Now, they have store brand ranch you can get too, ranch mix. But basically, if you get this Hidden Valley ranch, I get these big ones at Sam's Club. But you can also get smaller ones at any grocery store. But it's got a lot of things that some of this stuff will duplicate, but it gives it that tang. And I'm being as careful with this as I was with the cumin on the steaks that I put on, the chuck roast. You don't need much. I guess if I would have to guess, the total amount that I'm putting on of everything here is probably less than a teaspoon on each side of 8 different thighs. So less than a teaspoon spread on 8 different thighs. I'm going to use Italian seasoning. Don't need a lot. Granulated onion. It's just enough for taste. I'm using the coarse black pepper again because it's a texture thing. It's not to add heat. I mean, you can taste the pepper, but it's mostly for the texture and the way that it, when the skin of these thighs, if you're doing them skinless, it still does the same thing to the meat itself, but it gives it a little bit more bark to it, a little bit more snap to the outside, which improves the texture of it significantly, the bite. So I just touch all these pieces of chicken with this hand, so I'm going to spare, not going to touch it with this hand. And you notice I'm not doing it in the same order, that's okay. When I pulled this chicken out of the bags, I didn't pat it off or anything, so it was still wet, so that it holds on to this flavor, and it will soak into the chicken to marinate it as the rest of it comes up to room temperature. Now, if you think when you're doing this that it's going to be a while before it goes on the grill, and you've prepped it maybe a little too far in advance, you can just set it in the fridge. But remember to pull it out about 20 minutes before you put it on the grill again. It's very important that you're very safe with chicken handling, because food prep, it's important to keep things free of any kind of outside contaminants that could make you sick. So now we're just going to cover this. Let that come up to room temperature before I put it back on the grill. And before I touch anything else again, wash my hands again. Earlier I was talking about where I got that red mug. I had to look it up. It was the summer of 2019 when the wildfires broke out in Australia, and they burned across Australia, mostly Queensland, from the summer all the way through the next spring. And why I reference it, I remember it as being the start of a bunch of awful events. So that was the summer of 2019. COVID was first identified by the World Health Organization in December of 2019. And by March 4th, they had named it the pandemic. So that whole year, it's kind of the year of stress for everybody that I know, because it just changed our life so much. Not being able to go anywhere or do anything, everybody wearing masks and gloves. The whole controversy about effectiveness of inoculations and all that. I'm glad that's over. Still got to be careful, but that was a rough year. However, during that time, I did think to make use of the time that I was going to be stuck at my house more, like everybody else did. I should have been doing videos back then. But what we did was we ordered a lot of lumber and we had it delivered, and then we started building the kids' playset that's out back in the backyard. That was fun. I mean, it was hot. I remember because we were doing it in June and July. It was hot. And we built that whole playset in a matter of about 3 weeks, I think. We were just doing a little bit each day, so it was productive. It was as productive as we could be. So this is going to sit here for a little while. I'm not going to let it sit for longer than 20 or 30 minutes. If I think that my timing is going to be off to put it on the grill, put it on the smoker, then I'll just sit it in the fridge for a little while, and then I'll take it back out when I know that it's going to be less than 30 minutes before they go on the grill again. So that's it. So, you know, for a minute I thought I lost this. I was looking around for it and I couldn't find it. If you haven't seen my video on this, or at least me referencing it, go back and watch that one too. These are awesome. This is one that was gifted to me in the mid-90s. So I've had it ever since then. This one was built in Nashville, Tennessee. Still great, still works, keeps things cold, keeps things hot. Anyway, I'm not sponsored yet, by the way. Time to bring in the brisket so we can wrap it. That gets a good bark on it, doesn't it? Look at a bark on that. It's getting there. Okay, get you back inside now. Okay, chicken, you're gonna have to move. I'll put you over there for now. And get this wrapped. I wonder if I have any paper left. I do have butcher paper left. I thought I was out. So the point of the butcher paper is that it helps prevent the bark from getting soggy because it releases the moisture a little bit. You can still use foil. I use foil frequently. But since I've got the butcher paper, I'm going to fight with it.
was a little unclear if we still had butcher paper because it frequently gets used for projects, kids coloring, stuff like that. And now we can take these back out to the grill because I got the football. Center of the grill, temperature stays the same, but my internal temperature has to come back up again. Keep it on the fat end of this big one. The internal temperature's got to come up to about 205, just before 205. That'll be another hour or so. We'll check it. But the app's got me on point, so I don't really have to think about that much. Let's tip this chicken out there. We're gonna do the same thing with it. Make it delicious on the grill. Make it delicious on the Traeger. I'm going to move these down. I don't want the chicken to drip on the beef, so I can spread them out. See what that looks like in there. So everything's separated. My beef will still taste like beef, my chicken will still taste like chicken, and they will both be absorbing the same smoke. Smells wonderful. Okay, now the chicken. We're going to take this in and we're going to let it rest. Covered. It should be ready by the time the brisket's ready. I'm going to turn up the temperature on this Traeger to burn it off. And then get some other side dishes ready. Okay, first the prominence brisket. One. Two. Oh, they look good. Smell even better. Let's look and see what kind of bark they have on them. Tell him, Izzy. There you go. Look at that. See that?
That's good.
It's tender.
It smells really good.
Is it much longer for your potatoes?
There's a timer. Is this still going?
2 minutes.
Oh, that's good. That cheated. Alright. The chicken should be just fine. Oh, it looks nice and juicy too. I don't think it dried out at all. I think that mission is a success. Took slightly less time on the smoker than I thought it would just because of the weight. But the important thing was the internal temperature and the look of the bark. Because that comes right apart. That's what we want right there. Alright. Success. Again. Add to that some sides, and we're good. I'll put the whole step, every step of the process in the video with what the ingredients were and how long each step was. Thanks, like and subscribe, or I'll have my grandkids beat you up. They're right here.